Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. The window to invest in fan base is closing. We've raised over $10.6 million of our $17 million goal. That means there's room for less than 6,370 people to invest in fan base for the average amount. The minimum to invest in fan base right now is $399. That makes you an owner in fan base today. Go to startengine.com/fanbase to invest. Why? Because current social apps have taken advantage of users for far too long, with content suppression, shadow banning, harmful racist content, and no real tools for monetization and equity. Fanbase has over 1.4 million users and counting, allowing anyone to reach all their following and monetize their content from day one. Social media is the new TV, and whoever owns the apps that distribute that content have the opportunity to own potential billion-dollar companies. While big platforms with uncertain futures are failing to serve their users, Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now, invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the next generation of social media.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now. Black power.
Support this man, Black media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Hey, folks, today is Wednesday, March 19, 2025. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. I am here in Austin, Texas. You can see behind me the Texas state capitol. The governor of Texas is playing games when it comes to scheduling election for the seat of deceased Congressman Sylvester of the 18th Congressional District in Houston. We'll be talking about that also with one of the folks who's running. We expect as many as 15 people to throw their hats into the ring for this particular seat. Also, here in Texas, they were talking about DEI on the floor of the Texas Senate. You see the battles that continue to take place all across this country. Also, I'm going to tell you about this massive Confederate monument that's on the grounds here in Texas. And if you want to understand how MAGA is operating, they defend Confederate monuments, yet they are removing the pages of historic African Americans in Washington, D.C. The Trump folks got busted removing the page from the Department of Defense regarding Jackie Robinson's work in the U.S. Army. Now they put it back. We'll be talking to Spike Lee about that. Also, HUD is being sued for changes that they're making as well to follow Trump's MAGA dictate. Lots we're going to break down. It's time to bring the funk. I'm Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funky, he's fresh, he's real, the best. You know he's Roland Martin now.
Hey, folks, we've been telling you a lot about what is happening in Washington, D.C., and how MAGA is doing all they can to erase black people. In a little bit, we're going to be talking with Director Spike Lee, who was really upset with the Department of Defense removing the pages regarding Jackie Robinson from about his tenure in the United States Army. So we're going to talk about that in a second. But Let me explain to you how these MAGA people operate. So, as I said, I'm here in Austin, Texas. This is the state capitol, as you see it right here. But I want y'all to understand something. So, like you see above there, you have the U.S. flag, and you have the Texas state flag as well. And so, this here is the grounds of the Texas state capitol. So, as I pan left, I want you to see this right here. This, folks, here is a massive Confederate monument that sits on the grounds of the Texas state capitol. Yeah, you heard that right. So let me walk over here, and I want you to see something. And so what you're gonna see is, again. So what this is a massive monument to domestic terrorists. So when you see this monument here, so you see right there it says died for states' rights guaranteed under the Constitution. Well, those of us who know our own history know that's absolute trash. We know this it was about slavery. And so you see up there how they first say it says Southern Confederacy formed by following states withdrawing from Union, South Carolina, December 20th, 1860. South Carolina, of course, was the first state to succeed from the Union over the issue of slavery. Anybody who actually read their document of succession knows it was about slavery. Excuse me. So you go around here, and so what you're gonna see is you're gonna see on this side here, you see these are all the battles as well. So you see up here, Mississippi, January 9th, Florida, January 11th, Alabama, January 11th, Georgia, January 19th, 1861. And so then we go on this side over here. Then what you're going to see is up top, you're going to see Louisiana, January 26th, Texas, February 1st, Virginia, April 17th, Arkansas, May 6th, 1861. So they're listed when these are all the dates when these states seceded from the Union. Then, of course, you see up here, North Carolina, May 20th, Tennessee, June 24th. Hey, how you doing? Missouri, August 20th, Kentucky, December 10th, 1861. So then, of course, you go over here. And then you're going to see them claiming, again, the 280, the number of battles that took place, Confederate folks. There were they said were 2,257 engagements. 1,882 of these, at least one regiment took part. A number of men enlisted, Confederate armies. And so understand what we're seeing right here. What we're seeing right here on the grounds of the Texas Capitol. That means when every single child in Texas, black children as well, when they come to the Texas Capitol. A little bit earlier, I came here to visit some state representatives and some state senators, folks I've known for years. And so I ran into a group of folks from the NAACP. They also had the Black Chamber Day here at the U.S. Capitol. So I ran to them on the grounds. And so these black kids, so when black children come to the Texas State Capitol, they are walking past this massive Confederate monument that you see right here. So these folks, they want to get rid of DEI. They want to get rid of NDC. They want to get rid of historic black figures and female figures. And instead, this is a perfect example of what you're seeing in these formerly Confederate states, where they have no problem with these massive monuments to these domestic terrorists. And let me also remind you, if y'all get Gerald Horne's book, if you get his book on the Texas Revolution, the Texas Revolution set the stage for the Civil War. In the Texas Revolution was all about slavery. It was about slavery. And so when you sit here and you look at when you look at this Texas Capitol, and when you hear folks talk about the Texas Revolution, understand they frame this as about, oh, it was about freedom, and it was all about the battle. No, that's not what it was about. Okay, so again, this here is this monument to domestic terrorists. Okay, people who fought in the Confederacy. And of course, it was all about for Texas to be free of Mexico. Texas became its own nation. Mexico had abolished slavery. And so if you go to San Antonio, when you hear the phrase, remember the Alamo, y'all, that's a slave reference. The Alamo, that was a battle over slavery. The battle at San Jacinto, That was about defeating Mexico because Mexico wanted to stop slavery in the places it controlled. And so here you have, there's a hotel literally down the street named after Stephen F. Austin. Okay, of course they call Stephen F. Austin, you know, the father of Texas. And then you have Sam Houston. Well, here's the fact. The fact of the matter is, here in Texas, those individuals, those settlers, okay, who Mexico allowed to settle the land, they wanted to keep slavery for economic reasons. So I'm laying all of that out to you so you now have an understanding that when we're dealing with MAGA in this country, how they want to stop certain textbooks, when they want to get rid of any number of things, these same people have no problem defending monuments like this. They want to keep these monuments standing. And so the problem is this here. When children today in Texas, in Alabama, in Mississippi, in Tennessee, in South Carolina, when they travel all around, you know what ends up happening? They are being indoctrinated with Confederate history. They're being indoctrinated when they see these statues, when they see these monuments to these white domestic terrorists. These were the people who were defending slavery. They were not defending the Constitution. And so even here, okay, and again, I'm a native Texan. And so whenever I see these Texas politicians, when I see them post things like celebrating Texas Flag Day, Revolution, I say, no, I'm reminding people exactly what this all about. It is actually about slavery. And in fact, when you had Rick Perry, when he was the governor of Texas. So Texas A&M plays an annual football game with the University of South Carolina. And so he wanted to come up with something creative, a trophy for that game. So what they did is they came up with a trophy and they named it after a man from South Carolina who fought at the Alamo. And I've said to black players at Texas A&M and the University of South Carolina, whoever wins that game, don't you dare hold that trophy up, because you are holding up a Confederate monument. You're holding up a trophy that is celebrating a man who wanted to keep black people in slavery. He died at the Alamo. He was not interested in black freedom. He was interested in white freedom and to continue slavery. And so what we are facing here in this country, we're facing MAGA and others who desperately want this history to be told. They want this history to constantly be repeated. They want our children to be indoctrinated in learning about this history, learning about white history, learning about these domestic terrorists. And again, I just want y'all to understand, y'all see this massive monument that exists right here. This here is the main thoroughfare in front of the Texas State Capitol. This over here is the Texas Capitol. You see there's a monument that's right over here. That's a small monument. You go over here and then you see this other monument here. But this massive monument is to white domestic terrorists who wanted to keep black people enslaved. That's what this monument is. And so when we look at what MAGA is doing right now, by, of course, trying to get rid of the page representing Jackie Robinson, his service for the U.S. Army, when they're getting rid of the pages about Congressional Medal of Honor winners, of the Medgar Evers and others, now that they got called out by sports journalists. So now all of a sudden they're saying, oh, that was a mistake. We didn't mean to do that. Well, this morning, folks, when I was coming to flying to Austin, I got an email from my homeboy, Spike Lee, asking me what was I aware of. And I told Spike, we've been covering this stuff, this erasure of African Americans. He said, man, I got to come on. And so joining us right now, I'm rolling my Unfiltered is Spike Lee. What's up, Spike?
What's up? What's up? What's up? I apologize for being late.
It's all good.
But
it's all good. Listen, I was supposed to do my show.
Keep speaking that truth, brother. Keep speaking that truth. Because what they're trying to do, they got caught with those shenanigans, skullduggery, subterfuge, and now they try to backtrack. But too late. And now we have the response by David Robinson, son of Jackie, and Rachel, the queen, who's still alive today, 100 years old, and they got caught with their pants down.
Yep.
But we're not going for the okie doke. The Rudy Putin. Not doing it. Not having it.
Spike, the reason I wanted to start this way again, I'm standing at, this is a Confederate monument on the Texas state grounds. When our kids come to Texas Capitol, they got to walk past this crap. And that's what they want. They want us to celebrate this stuff, but they don't want us to celebrate and remember Jackie Robinson. And now they're trying to say, oh, it was a mistake. No, what they did was they typed in.
It's been more, Jackie's not the only one. That's not a mistake.
That's right.
They've done it to African Americans. Come on, Japanese Americans. It's some, you know what? But I don't want to curse.
No. Trust me. You can. My show is called Rolling Mark Unfiltered, so cursing is allowed. But here's the thing: they also the Navajo Code Breakers. One of the men who was putting that flag up at Iwo Jima, they removed his pages. The reality is. That's what my book is called, White Fear, Why the Browning of America is making white folks lose their minds. They want to erase African Americans, Latinos, Indians. They want this to be about white Americans. That's what MAGA and Donald Trump is all about.
I'm glad there's been an uproar about this, and I was just waiting for them to erase Crispus Attucks, the first American to die for this country in Boston. Crispus Attucks. They can't say that happened. We got paintings to say that. Him being shot. He was the first, Crispus Attucks was the first person to die for the United States of America.
But also I want, Spike, you're rocking.
And he ain't the only one.
I want people to understand something, okay? I'm here in Texas. It was in Texas where Jackie Robinson was court-martialed because he refused to give up his seat. There's a great movie. I wish TNT would reissue the movie. Andre Braugher played, and I've been trying to get my hands on a copy of this movie. Andre Braugher is called the court-martial of Jackie Robinson. On the late
He was there with his guy there was Sugar Ray Robinson.
Yeah.
They were together.
So I need people to understand Jackie Robinson is a tie to Texas. They wanted to court-martial Jackie Robinson. They court-martialed. That was an actual trial. He beat it, but he fought segregated busing in the Texas town. And so people need to understand Jackie wasn't just about breaking bears in baseball. He was standing up and fighting Jim Crow racism right here in Texas when he was in the U.S. Army.
Speak the truth. Speak the truth. You know, here's the thing, though. People got to read. People got to read. We got to read. We got to read. We got to read.
But here's the deal, though. That's why they want to get rid of the websites. They want to get rid of the web pages. They want to get rid of these things. People don't have access to the information. And you know how I feel. It's why we got to have black-owned media to tell the stories. Yeah. We got to have movies. We got to have documentaries.
And you're leading the way, my brother. You're leading the way. And we were just talking about while you were trying to tell people, black folks in the media what's going to happen, but they thought you were crazy. Now they look crazy because they're out of job.
They told me I was crazy, but I want our people to understand.
They said, I'm not going to use the N-word, but they were saying, that Negro's crazy. that Roland Martin, that nigga's crazy.
That is what they were saying about me, and now they calling me, asking me, how did I actually do it? Because they want to replicate what we've done here. But here's the thing, Spike. This is where I'm telling our people. We got to be vigilant, and we just can't say, all right, man, it's no big deal. No.
It's a big deal. It's a big deal. Because this is our history. This is our herstory. This is our legacy. We built this country. 400 years, from working from Kansas City in the morning, Kansas City at night. We built this country. That's why I named my production company 40 Acres and a Mule.
That's right. That's right.
That's not right. Like random. That's not random.
So Spike, here's what I want us to do. They restored the Jackie Robinson page, but we should say, no. Y'all gonna restore all of the pages.
Everything.
Everything.
We need, first of all, we need to do the research and find out who we don't know.
Yep.
There's some people don't have the historical significance, you might say, or the claim of Jackie Robinson, but they are black, so they got rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
We got to find out every single person, black, brown, Native American, Japanese American, that they decided that they don't exist, which is some BS.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I just want our folk, this is where we must be vigilant. I don't see this as, yes, they've restored the pages, they've restored the page of Jackie Robinson. And here's the crazy thing. When they deleted Spike, they actually had the URL that ended in DEI.
Explain that for people to understand it like me.
It was all about them trying to send a signal that, oh, this is just DEI. No, Jackie Robinson is American history. He's Black history. He's American history. He's U.S. Army history. And we cannot allow these people to segregate our history. And again, what I'm not going to do is be silent as I got to stand here and watch this piece of shit, this Confederate monument on the state grounds here. I'm not going to be silent when they defend this crap, but then they want to give us hell when it comes to folk like Jackie Robinson and our history. No, we got to be fighting this thing every step of the way.
We have to, and we owe this to our ancestors. We owe this to our ancestors, and then, they think they're slick with their DEI. That's really DIE.
Yep. They want, listen, man.
It's not DEI. People, wake up, people. Like I said many times in my films, wake up. It's not DEI, it's DIE.
And they want to shut it down. They want to defund Black America. And so this is the moment. And again, I was just inside, and they were debating DEI in the state Senate. These Republicans, oh, this is just unfair. And it's like, really, it's unfair. But when you look at the numbers, when you look at the jobs, when you look at the housing, when you look at all these factors, guess what? Our numbers aren't in great numbers, but they want to act like DEI is the biggest problem in this country. No, the reality is it is still white racism in Texas and in America.
Why are you picking on Texas?
Because I'm born and raised here. And
you
I'm
guys won
right.
a couple World Series, beat the Yankees. But look, I knew you knew how to get sports, and you had to get the Yankees in here.
Well,
the Rockets look good, though. The Rockets look good. I know it's a big segue.
I will tell you this here. There was a white guy who was inside the Capitol, and he was sitting here with a big old sign saying, "Close our borders." And he had an American flag and a Confederate flag. And I walked past, I said, y'all ass is lost. And he was like, well, we're still winning now. I said, no, your ass is lost and you're going to lose again. So that was the only time I said, go Yankees, inside when he had his Confederate flag. I said, go Union Army. And so he started laughing. So we want to let you know, the only time you're going to ever hear me say go Yankees is when I'm referencing the Union Army beating these racist Confederates.
Well, you made me think about my brother Glory, who won an Oscar for that role. And are you coming up Sunday? Are you coming up Sunday for opening Othello, opening night?
No, I'll be where am I Sunday? I got a colonoscopy on Monday, so I will be preparing for that. So but I'll try to make my way to New York.
You got an excuse.
I got a serious excuse.
I'm gonna tell Denzel.
You
Sunday night after the opening night of Othello. Why you weren't there?
You tell Denzel I would have been there, except for my colonoscopy. But I'll text Paul
word for word.
I'll text Paul. I'll text Pauletta so she know as well.
Yeah. Text Pauletta. Let Pauletta be the bearer of that news, not me.
But anytime I pass the word to Denzel, he's a big Cowboys fan, so I love him being in misery with them losing.
He's a Cowboys fan?
Oh, huge.
He never told me that.
Oh, dude, I was giving him hell in the last couple of months, so I'm gonna hit him up. Well, Spike, we gonna keep swinging.
We made a segue there. Can we just get back to a serious thing? So before we go up, please.
Yeah, bottom line is this here. This is what we need. Like when you hit me this morning and you were like, man, you see this here? I said, Spike, we've been on it. You were like, man, I want to come on. I need our people. And not just regular ordinary folk. This is where we gotta have, man, celebrities, athletes, everybody. This is a collective thing. They want to.
You know what it is?
Tear
as they said
down.
when I was growing up, it's nation time. Nation time.
That's right. That's exactly what it is. So, man, we got to keep swinging. So I appreciate you hitting me. You know, anytime you want to come on and rap, just let me know. We'll make it happen.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Because
all right.
I not heard this thing till this morning, so I had to call you up and find what's happening. And as usual, you're ahead of everybody else.
Well, man, we've been on it from day one, and we're gonna keep swinging on them. And so we ain't giving them no space to breathe. You know what? I got the shirt. I got the Eric Garner shirt says I can't breathe. I don't want them to breathe. And you see how crazy I am. I wore my shirt. Don't blame me. I voted for the black woman.
All right, baby.
All right, Spike.
Have a good thing with the doctor.
All right, bro. Take care.
I did mine. I'm good. All
right. I hear you. All right, Spike.
Later.
All right,
folks.
I love you. Yeah. Love you, brother. We're going to go to a break, y'all. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about our panel. So I'm telling y'all, we've been telling y'all this. This is the erasure of African Americans. They want to attack our history. They want to attack our books. They want to attack our historians. They want to attack everything about blackness because they want this to remain a white nation. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered, broadcasting live from Austin, Texas, right here on the Black Star Network.
We begin tonight with the people who are really running the country right now.
Now, Trump is often wrong and misleading about a lot of things, but especially about history.
Donald Trump falling in line with President Elon Musk.
In the wake of the unsettling news that MSNBC has canceled Joy Ann Reid's primetime show, The Readout, Roland Martin and the Black Star Network would like to extend an invitation to all of the fans of Joy Ann Reid's MSNBC show to join us every night to watch Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming on the Black Star Network for news, discussion of the issues that matter to you, and the latest updates on the twice impeached, criminally convicted felon-in-chief Donald Trump and his unprecedented assault on democracy, as well as co-president Elon Musk's takeover of the federal government. The Black Star Network stands with Joy Ann Reid and all folks who understand the power of black voices in media. We must come together and never forget that information is power. Be sure to watch Roland Martin Unfiltered weeknights, 6 p.m. Eastern at youtube.com/Roland S. Martin or download the Black Star Network app.
On the next Get Wealthy with me, Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, the studies show that millennials and Gen Xers will be less well off than their parents. What can we do to make sure that we get to children younger and that they have the right money habits? Well, joining me on the next Get Wealthy is an author who's created a master playbook.
Be willing to share some of your money mistakes, right? If that's what you have to lean on, start with the money mistakes that you have made, but don't just tell the mistake, right? Tell the lesson in the mistake.
That's right here on Get Wealthy, only on Black Star Network.
This week on A Balanced Life, we are talking about protecting your peace when life be lifing. I mean, honestly, so much is going on, from dealing with chaotic leadership, trying to figure out how we're going to work on these 90-day holds, how to unburden ourselves from the things that are happening in our lives, all the way through knowing what it means and what it looks like to just take the time to work on self.
How much time are you spending on wasteful movements? Like what energy audit do you need to do on your personal time and your personal life? Because maybe some people don't need to have that front seat perspective on your life. Maybe some people need to be in a different position where they don't cloud your view.
That's next on A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie here at Black Star Network.
This week on The Other Side of Change.
We're digging into the immigration crisis that's happening here right now.
It can impact each and every one of us. We're going to break down the topic of this constitutional crisis that is being led by the Trump administration and what you, as ordinary citizens, can do to speak up and speak out to fight back. This is The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr. We look at the history of emancipation around the world, including right here in the United States, the so-called end of slavery. Trust me, it's a history lesson that bears no resemblance to what you learned in school. Professor Chris Manjapra, author, scholar, amazing teacher, joins us to talk about his latest book, Black Ghost of Empire, The Death of Slavery and the Failure of Emancipation. He explains why the end of slavery was no end at all, but instead a collection of laws and policies designed to preserve the status quo of racial oppression.
The real problem is that the problems that slavery invented have continued over time. And what reparations are really about is saying, how do we really transform society, right? And stop racial violence, which is so endemic.
What we need to do about it on the next installment of The Black Table, right here on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen shootings.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, Dave.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Executive producer of Proud Family.
Bruce Smith, creator and executive producer of The Proud Family, Louder and Prouder. And you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, folks, welcome back to Roland Martin Unfiltered here in the Black Star Network. I'm live here in Austin, Texas, where Texas Legislative Black Caucus is having their two-day day on Capitol Hill. Earlier today, the Black Business Chamber, they had Black Business Day on Capitol Hill. So I ran to a number of different people, NAACP folks and others who are here talking to their state legislators. You got Republicans also pushing an anti-DEI bill on the floor, so I was chatting with them about that as well. And so let me go to our panel. Robert Patillo, hosts People, Passion, Politics, 1380 WALK out of Atlanta. Also, Derek Jackson, State Representative, joining us out of Atlanta as well. Glad to have both of y'all here. Derek, I want to start with you. I started with talking about, again, that Confederate monument that's at the state capitol. And what is so bothersome to me, again, you know, you come here and, you know, this state capitol is down the street. When you come to Austin and when you go to these state capitals, when you go to state capitals in North Carolina and South Carolina and Mississippi and Alabama, our children have to be confronted with these racist monuments named after street names. Then you got MAGA doing what they're doing, where they, of course, are angry that Biden, actually, what Biden Harris, Congress actually passed a bill renaming the military bases like Fort, you know, like the various bases in North Carolina and others. And these MAGA Republicans are so stupid. Pete Hegseth is so stupid. What he did was he went and found two unheralded individuals, last name Bragg and another one, just so they can change the name from what Biden and Harris renamed them. And so this is the stupidity that we're seeing. And again, when you look at deleting these pages of these history makers, Jackie Robinson, Black Medal of Honor winners, when you talk about Navajo Indians, code breakers, people who have been celebrated I mean, this is all about erasing Black people and people of color by Donald Trump and MAGA.
You know, Roland, you know, I just received your book a few months ago about white fear. And when I think about what you captured years ago, and what we were talking about just last year around Project 2025, this has been their plan all along, right? They've been after the essence of not only dealing with those things that are such as slavery, you know, the most painful era of America, lynching, the plantations, but they also want to go after contributions. And when you think about Jackie Robinson, I'm glad you and Spike had some dialogue around that. I mean, Jackie Robinson served this country in the Army. And when you think about it, Roland, he did it in 1942. What was going on in 1942 where a Black man serving the Army served his country, right? But Jackie Robinson didn't stop there. Then he went on and did some very successful thing. He broke many records in baseball. And he did it during a time where, you know, we didn't have social media. We didn't have the internet. He did it in 1947, right? And during those 9 or 10 years or so, he played baseball. He had to not only persevere, Roland. So now they want to erase that, how Jackie Robinson competed and beat some of their folks like Babe Ruth and others, right? But they didn't want to stop there, Roland, right? Just last year, while we were all talking about Project 25, they were talking about if they get an opportunity to get back into the White House, they're going to make sure they're going to whitewash everything. I just went to the website as you and Spike were talking. They removed Colin Powell from the Pentagon website. They removed Lloyd Austin from the website, Roland. And then, as we talked about last week, how they were just removing Blacks and women at Arlington. Those who did more serving than Donald Trump, the one that had bone spurs, than Pete Hegseth. And so we're at a point, this most pivotal point right now in this nation's history. We have to continue to do as you stated with Spike. We got to stand up. We got to call them out, and we got to take down these Confederate symbols. I mean, it was a strategic strategy for them to have all 11 Southern Confederate states to put up these symbols of oppression. And then our tax dollars, Roland, our tax dollars are paying to preserve that monument where you're standing. It's appalling.
What we have to understand, there's no other word to explain what we're dealing with, Robert, than whitewash. And what they want, if you, and this is, I keep saying it, 2021, they attacked Black Lives Matter. 2022, it was CRT. 2023, it was woke. 2024, it's DEI. I said that these people were angry that the Black Lives Matter movement was the first movement in American history where a majority of Americans agreed with it. You see right now where the racists like Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh, and others, they want a pardon for Derek Chauvin on the federal charges because they think it is unjust that he was convicted. They still want to say it was George Floyd's fault. And what they were really angry about, Robert, they were angry that young white people were waking up. They were angry that young white people were learning about as Paul Harvey used to say, the rest of the story. They were upset by that. And they made a commitment. And this was what Project 2025 was about. Their commitment was, we are going to attack everything that was built around Black Lives Matter we're going to attack the books. We're going to attack their curriculum. We're going to attack everything because they do not want to see two generations of white Americans learning the true history of this country. Robert, take it away.
And you know, it's interesting. During your conversation with Spike, he brought up the opening of Othello. And there's one line from Othello that I think is prescient in this moment. Othello, after a fit of anger and rage, he slays Desdemona. And then he says, I am one who loved unwisely, but unkind. And the point that I think we have to make is that white America has an unwise love for the Confederacy. They have an unwise love for this myth of white supremacy and this unwise love for this myth around their own placement within the world society. And as you stated, they have worked over the course of the last, not 10 years, over the course of the last 40 years to replace and rebuke and retard any sort of progress made by other groups that may undermine the fundamental underpinnings of this fiction of white supremacy nationwide. What you'll notice is they like to otherize any movement that we create. Everything from Black Lives Matter, they turn that into BLM. Because it's hard to say, I don't believe that Black Lives Matter. It's easy to say that BLM is a socialist organization that wants to overthrow traditional American values. They take something like critical race theory. It's hard to say that I don't believe that people should learn accurate versions of American history on the doctoral level. But it's easy to say that CRT is corrupting our children. And to take people who don't understand, don't know, and can't read and tell them that this is now the new evil. They take something like woke, which for decades you would hear the Black Hebrew Israelites on the corner saying, open up your third eye, become awakened to the things around you. You have to be woke to what's going on in America. And to take that and then pervert it into this conceptualization that somehow is about an anti-nuclear family, anti-traditional American values, anti-everything that you wanted to be. They turned into this empty vessel that they could simply dump into it anything that they saw to be evil. And then, as you said in the last year, they took something, diversity, equity, and inclusion. I think it's important for our community to say the words out loud every single time, because they took diversity, equity, and inclusion. Nobody's going to say, I'm against diversity. No one's going to say, I'm against equity. No one's going to say, I'm against inclusion. But if you otherize that and say DEI, well, now you can turn that into reverse racism, something that is against their community and against what we believe in as a society. If you look back at the teachings and the writings of Simone de Beauvoir, she was very much a contemporary of Frantz Fanon and Jean-Paul Sartre as neo-Kantism thinkers. She says that in the feminist context, that women are neither above or below, but fundamentally other. If you take that to this movement, what you're simply saying is that they want to paint us as being other from the American family, other from traditional white American values. And by doing that, it gives them the leeway to take from us all the rights that we have fought for going forward. And as Spike said, this may be the time to reevaluate the conversation that we've had for the last 3/4 of a century as an African American community with regard to integration, and start having a conversation about nationalism. Have a conversation about economic nationalism, saying that we need to economically control the streets of our neighborhood, the businesses we invest in, the stores that we go to, and the media that we consume. We have to talk about political nationalism so that we are no longer seeing Al Green having to walk out of the House chamber all by himself, but say that if we are going to be representatives of this nation of black folks that you come to every 4 years and say, we love you so much, you are the backbone of the party, maybe we should start voting nationalistically for people who believe and will stand up for those same communities. We have to start thinking socially nationalistically. And that if they're going to have their statues up and no matter what, they're going to rename them, then maybe we should start owning our own history, teaching our own history, promoting our own history, building the nationalistic story that America has come to rely on. We have to remember that German nationalism didn't happen until after the American Civil War. Italian unification didn't happen until the 1870s. It's not as if it takes a millennia to build this nationalistic spirit. It's something that we can build here now today within our communities, but it's going to take us in this period of time when we're under attack, coming together and believing that we can be that nation within a nation that builds up our own communities.
Derek, we got to do something different as well. And that is, we're going to have to get our people to also begin to recognize where we become first. And what I mean by that is,
we're going to have to deal with the level of ignorance in our community. That was an unveiling of an Emmett Till statue. And I saw some comments, oh, this is performative. And I've seen this a lot. Things happen and somebody's like, oh, well, this statue's performative. This plaque is performative. Well, guess what? When they were sitting here erecting all of those, the dogs of the Confederacy, all those Civil War statues, it wasn't about performative. They knew it was about history. It was about controlling narrative. And I just think that we need to learn how to check out some of our people who denigrate these efforts without realizing that, no, this is about changing the narrative and saying, y'all are going to recognize who we are and what our history represents.
Roland, listen, you're exactly right. And as you well know, this whole false equivalency that plagues in our communities, where some folks will feel, well, we don't want to do that because that's going to make folks feel too intimidated. We don't want to, bring about this level of awareness or education. Listen, Roland, here's the bottom line. And I appreciate Robert bringing that perspective as well, because he's here in Georgia with me. And Roland, we all know the history around Stone Mountain. But you will have them thinking, folks will have us thinking that it's just a statue, it's a park, what's the big deal? So education plays a crucial role in addressing racism. When the question keeps coming up all the time, and it's just so interesting that they always ask Black elected official, is America racist? They don't ask that of the white elected officials, is America racist? So why is that? So we got to make sure, Roland, that we have to first bring about this education, which is under attack. They don't want the information that brings about the truth. As you and Spike was talking about glory, right? They don't want to talk about glory, Jackie Robinson. Heck, they didn't even want the Black Panther movie, a very fictional place. And so we got to say in the Black community that we have to be authentic. We got to be true to who we are. We have value in this country. We have to know who we are, and we have to protect who we are. And don't let nobody else try to justify who we are. And we should not feel ashamed when we tell someone, you don't value the things that we value. This is more than just about our culture. This is about our ancestors, and we got to protect and preserve those things that we fought for. And if they feel ashamed, Roland, so be it. They need to feel ashamed.
And Roland, real quick, because I got a guest who's holding. I'm gonna go to a break. We'll come back, Robert, real quick.
Well, just absolutely real quick. The reason it's so important that we take down Stone Mountain within our generation is that rock formation will be there for the next 100,000 years. If you look at the cave paintings that we look at throughout history, those are only 10,000 years old. So in millennia to come, people will look back archaeologically and say those were the heroes of that generation. Those were the gods of that time. When they built Stone Mountain, it wasn't about building up the white power mythology just for this generation. It was about inscribing it into the history of Earth for all future generations. This is why it's so important, not just to benignly say we won't go there. We have to destroy that and take that image down, because when the aliens come in 10,000 years, they will still believe that white supremacy reigned supreme during this time.
Folks, going to go to break. We come back. We're going to talk about lawsuits against HUD, another area where they are saying, hey, don't worry about it. All those efforts to end discrimination in housing, you can ignore those things because those don't matter. Folks, you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered right here on the Black Star Network.
This week on the other side of change.
We're digging into the immigration crisis that's happening here right now.
It can impact each and every one of us. We're going to break down the topic of this constitutional crisis that is being led by the Trump administration and what you, as ordinary citizens, can do to speak up and speak out to fight back. This is the other side of change, only on the Black Star Network.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Listen to what I'm about to tell you.
The window to invest in fan base is closing. We've raised over $10.6 million of our $17 million goal. That means there's room for less than 6,370 people to invest in fan base for the average amount. The minimum to invest in fan base right now is $399. That makes you an owner in fan base today. Go to startengine.com/fanbase to invest. Why? Because current social apps have taken advantage of users for far too long, with content suppression, shadow banning, harmful racist content, and no real tools for monetization and equity. Fanbase has over 1.4 million users and counting, allowing anyone to reach all their following and monetize their content from day one. Social media is the new TV, and whoever owns the apps that distribute that content have the opportunity to own potential billion-dollar companies. While big platforms with uncertain futures are failing to serve their users, Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now, invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the next generation of social media.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr. We look at the history of emancipation around the world, including right here in the United States, the so-called end of slavery. Trust me, it's a history lesson that bears no resemblance to what you learned in school. Professor Chris Manjapra, author, scholar, amazing teacher, joins us to talk about his latest book, Black Ghost of Empire, The Death of Slavery and the Failure of Emancipation. He explains why the end of slavery was no end at all, but instead a collection of laws and policies designed to preserve the status quo of racial oppression.
The real problem is that the problems that slavery invented have continued over time. And what reparations are really about is saying, how do we really transform society, right? And stop racial violence, which is so endemic.
What we need to do about it on the next installment of The Black Table, right here on the Black Star Network.
This is Tamala Mann.
And this is David Mann. And you're watching Roland Martin
Unfiltered.
Folks, there have been a lot of different lawsuits against HUD, and there's an organization that is leading one right now. You see the changes that have been taking place. We've seen how our folks are being impacted by these decisions in the MAGA administration. We're seeing what they are doing. And so four fair housing groups are suing HUD over DOGE grant cuts. These things are happening before our very eyes. And what people need to be aware of is that these things are going to continue. Of course, Vincent Hughes, he is no stranger to this show. State Senator out of Pennsylvania. Glad to have you here. Let's talk about this lawsuit. How critically important is it?
Roland, it's extremely important, and thanks for having me on. Hey, just I gotta say this. I'm in the Germantown section of Philadelphia, where a couple Republicans decided to convene a meeting, having an appreciation conversation about what they're doing in Washington, D.C. So, we had to respond to that. But that's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother day, brother. So what has happened, very simply, is that DOGE suspended about $30 million in funding to fair housing rights organizations all across the country, about 70 different organizations receiving about 68 different grants all across the country to do the good work to enforce the Fair Housing Rights Bill that was passed into law in April of 1968. And these organizations have the responsibility to educate communities and work through discrimination issues and get them reported and get them addressed through the legal process. What has happened is that DOGE has essentially eliminated all of their funding, decimated these organizations, and now these organizations don't have any funding to do the work to protect against discrimination. And what it basically means is that Musk, Trump, and the whole crew believe it's okay to discriminate in housing in all throughout the United States of America. And the lawsuit was introduced to try to prevent that and to get those fundings, those dollars restored to these organizations.
And look, people need to understand, these are folks who already made allocations. They've got staff. This is like real, this is a real impact.
It's very real, Roland. And these are folks that you've talked with before, folks that you work with all across the country. Their job, very simply, is to enforce the law that was passed on April 11th, 1968, the Fair Housing Rights legislation. And so that's the law of the country. What DOGE has done is eliminate their funding. They cannot operate. They cannot do the investigations. They cannot send folks in to investigate. They can't educate communities. They can't hold people accountable. And, we've been dealing with this for years now. Most recently, as you recall, there's been several major settlements over the last 10 years with major banks around fair housing because they discriminated with modern-day redlining. We've been dealing with this for a number of years, and now we're back at it because these organizations will no longer have the funding in place to deal with educating communities and investigating communities where there's been discrimination.
How are others joining you in this pursuit?
Yes. We had a press event earlier this week, had several congresspeople, several state senators join in this effort, putting public face and information out to the broader community. You know what's going on, Roland. There's so much happening at such a rapid pace that some of these issues get lost in the public conversation. That's why I appreciate you so much for opening up your airwaves so we can get this word out. So the lawsuit is being filed. Urban League, other organizations have filed a lawsuit nationally to get those dollars restored. But this is just the tip of the iceberg of what we're confronting all across this country. And folks have got to step up and step out and do whatever it is that they can. What I say, Roland, is very simple. Take your own hill. You've heard me say this before. Wherever you may be, don't worry for this party or this organization, whatever, to step up. Take your own hill. Get engaged wherever you can get engaged and fight this fight. But let's monitor this. We cannot go back to the days where overt discrimination in our opportunity to purchase a home is allowed to be the law of the land. We cannot go back to those days. No.
Absolutely. All right, Senator Hughes, we certainly appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, brother. Take care of yourself, man.
Go to my panel here, Representative Jackson. I need people who are watching to understand this is all by design. They want to starve organizations, cities, and states that they don't agree with. They want to starve them financially.
Roland, we need to mobilize and organize on every issue, on every front, and as my dear brother said, on every hill. Let's face it, we all know that one of the most significant benefits of HUD fair housing grants is economic empowerment, right? It always gave Blacks access to affordable and quality housing. That's one of the most pivotal cornerstone in our lives, right? It's going to be one of the most major purchases that we will make in our lifetime. But when you start to strategically go after Black families, right? Not DEI families, Black families, that's where they're going after. So they don't want us to have Social Security. They don't want us to have a 401k plan. They don't want us to have housing. They don't want us to have Medicaid, Medicare. All these things are strategic. And so as you continue to advocate, Roland, that we got to mobilize and organize on every front and meet them where they are. So if they want to go low and start taking away HUD fair housing grants, then we need to meet them where they are. If we got to march in Atlanta, if we got to march in Detroit, if we got to march in Orlando, Florida, wherever we are, because this is going to impact us all.
And this is, I mean, we see what they're doing. It's very evident, Robert, and people need to pay attention. They're going to continue it. Luckily, you have these federal judges who are stamping up, but there's no guarantee that the appellate courts, the Supreme Court, are going to affirm these lower court rulings.
Look, at some point in time, we have to take responsibility as a community and realize that there was more people on social media talking about Just Hilarious and the Breakfast Club having a crash out than there are talking about the thousands of people who are going to be affected by the cuts to HUD, by the cuts to Medicare and Social Security, by the cuts to entitlement programs across the board. We as a community have to understand that we have to stop waiting for Superman. Gil Scott-Heron once said that there ain't no such thing as Superman. For some reason, we're expecting the next messianic figure to descend down to lead Black people. They believe that the next Dr. King or Malcolm is going to come and rise up from the polity and lead us to victory. That has never been the way that things worked. It took local organizers, people standing up in their own communities. It took the Fannie Lou Hamers and the James Oranges of the world. It took the Shuttleworths of the world to come together and bring together block by block, street by street, and say we're no longer going to be subjected to a system that treats us as being second class or subhumans in America. There's a reason that these groups are going after the least of among us first, because they know that America writ large does not care about the least among us, or we would have done something about it first. If you were going after these multi-million-dollar McMansions instead of going after people who are on federal assistance, you'd be hearing a lot more about it. If you were to hear, if we were going after these programs that are promoting people into the upper class and into the million-dollar contracts, then that we would hear more about that than when you're dealing with poor families that are just trying to get by side to side. So it's going to take us not just coming together, not just marching and going up and down the street 3-4 times. I think it's going to take a consecrated effort. If we see that they are pulling back on these federal programs, they're making it very clear they are, we have to create a community-based solution to do that. It can no longer simply be we lean on the crutch that we have for the last 80 years of saying the federal government will come in to push back against local racism. It has to be that we lean on our churches, lean on our nonprofits, lean on our business leaders and say, how will we fill the gap? How will we stand in the breach? We can no longer depend. If you're looking at what's going on internationally, you have the Germans saying that they are decoupling from America. You have the EU saying they are making plans for what happens when they can't depend on America. You have Japan and South Korea coming together and saying we can't trust America to defend us if Taiwan is invaded by China. So why the hell are we as Black folks in this country saying we are going to depend on the machinations of a fickle federal government and say that we're going to depend on them for our housing, for our food, for our livelihood, for our education? We have to start thinking nationalistically in how we will do better, because otherwise we will be falling to the wayside. Because if you think Trump is terrible, just remember, 20 years ago, everybody thought George W. Bush would be the worst president in American history. What do you think is going to happen 20 years from now? We have to prepare for the fight ahead.
It's interesting you mentioned the Breakfast Club. I came across this clip yesterday. Former NFL player Adam Pac-Man Jones reaffirmed his love and support of Donald Trump. And it was like, really? Okay, if y'all have it, go ahead and play it.
Because you're a Trump supporter, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I don't give a fuck who don't like it. Like, my opinion is my opinion who I like. Like, I was somewhere like 2 weeks ago, and the dude said, man, I seen you with that Trump hat on. I said, okay, what is your problem? And he just went in on me like, yeah. He is trying to take away your Social Security. I said, okay, that's cool. Are you done yet? Like, my opinion is my opinion. As far as business-wise, I agree with Trump. I got paper. And all my folks that was in the hood, they good.
You got the economy
I'm
fucked
voting
up right
for
now,
fucking me. Huh?
You got the economy fucked
It's gonna
up
get
right
up. You know that shit gonna get up. You know that shit gonna get up, bro.
I don't know.
You don't think so? Well, the last two motherfuckers ain't did shit for you. It was down when they was in this motherfucker too.
Listen, I don't believe in none of them. But I just think
it's gonna get back up.
I don't know.
I think so.
Only reason I say that is because we have 11 recessions in this country. 10 of them have been led by Republicans.
Yeah.
And the economy does do better when there's a
Not
Democrat
when
in the
Trump
White
was
House.
in there last time though.
Hell yeah. We was right there through the recession. The only thing that stopped the recession was COVID.
No, I don't think start recession was Trump getting nigga checks.
COVID. He gave him the check for COVID.
But COVID was planned. You see they goddamn getting rid of his ass, huh?
Who, COVID?
No. The motherfucker.
Fauci?
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
Oh, you don't want to talk about that,
No,
do you?
I mean, I don't know if they
So
get
you
rid
don't
of
think Fauci put COVID,
no,
drop this shit in here? How you think COVID got here?
It leaked from a lab in China.
Man, it leaked from motherfucking Fauci.
Yeah, I could have been a.
How Fauci get all that money for nothing?
Could it have been a biological warfare? Yes, but it came from a lab in China, the Wuhan lab.
It came from Fauci.
That right there is why you don't put dumb people on national broadcasts. What you heard right there, Robert, was sheer stupidity. A host of lies from Adam Pac-Man Jones. Just a host of lies. Lies about Fauci, lies about COVID, lies about how amazing the economy was under Trump, lies about the recession, and lies about, how folk in the hood were doing so great. PPP loan fraud don't count. Listen, the dude who used to do security for us and drive us in the Sprinter, his ass went to prison. One, I got rid of him before that. PPP loan fraud. But these are the kind of people folk listen to. No one in their right mind should be listening to anything Adam Pac-Man Jones has to say about politics, business, or COVID.
Well, look, Roland, I think one Pat-Man is the homie, so shout out to Pat-Man on other things that we've worked together on before. But
if he's the homie, but you need to see his ass.
Hold on, Roland. This is what I'm trying to say real quick. There is an instructive lesson here that people on the left can better understand, which is Trump crafted a message that people with a third grade education can understand. Whether it's true or not is a side note. The point is that people listened to that message, they understood that message, they repeated that message. So if you look at the people who were supporting Trump in the last campaign, you had Sexy Red. Say what you want about her. She is the voice for women under 25 in this country. You had Waka Flocka Flame. You had Le'Veon Bell. You had Antonio Brown. You had a counterburnium of people supporting him. Meanwhile, Democrats will release messaging such as unelected kleptocrat Elon Musk and the oligarchs without oversight are the ones bringing down this country through policies that do not support climate change and transgender rights. Who the hell understands that in a way that can be understood and repeated?
Robert, I get all of that. I get the importance of messengers and who gives the message. But Derek, the reality is, to defend lies. I mean, that was a bunch of lies we heard right there.
Not only was it a bunch of lies, but it was far from the truth, Roland. I mean, first off, Pac-Man Jones will not come to my mind if I'm talking about public policy. In fact, Pac-Man Jones won't come to my mind if I'm talking about someone that had a very successful career in football. Right? Let's be honest, right? So not all skin folks are kin folks here. We gotta make sure that as true journalism is under attack, right? I don't need to convey to you, Roland, heck, you got 3 decades of journalism underneath your belt. Charlemagne the God does not. Charlemagne the God should have asked him a question and say, hold up. I just told you that out of the 11 last recessions, 10 of the 11, a Republican was in control. You cannot dispute that Joe Biden turned over a strong, robust, healthy economy, Roland. In the last 6 weeks, the Wall Street has lost $5 trillion. If you want to even drill down to more, Tesla lost 45% on their stock, 45%. And so when someone like a Pac-Man Jones don't understand economics, right? When someone doesn't understand public policy and they're completely out of their lane, someone like Charlemagne the God, although I wouldn't even put him in the same stage with you, but Charlemagne should say, no, you're telling a lie. I got to protect my platform. You're lying. You can't say that somebody brought in COVID that did not bring in COVID. And so we're in a very interesting crossroads right now, Roland, how people get their information. They cannot just get it from TikTok. Unfortunately, a lot of people do not read New York Times or Financial Times or Bloomberg. It's very unfortunate that people are listening to someone like Robert mentioned, the sister that talks about her butt and all that kind of stuff. That's not where you get information when it comes to politics and public policy. You have to come to shows like yours. You have to come to credible platforms to get this kind of information, because if not, our next generation or the next 2 or 3 generation will be lost, Roland, because they're getting their information from non-credible sources.
Well, look, the point I'm trying to make about making sure we're crafting messaging in such a way that people can better understand is, look, Voltaire once said, if you can convince a man of absurdities, you can force him into atrocities. That they are winning this informational warfare battle. They're able to talk to this next generation on the wavelength that they talk on it in the language that they understand. And we may not like it. I'm not a person who supports it or believes in it, but it is the reality that we live within. People under the age of 30 get their information off of TikTok. They're not going to be reading newspapers. People who are Gen Zs and Gen Alphas who are coming up in this information space, they believe more in podcasters than they believe in traditional news and traditional metrics. And we're dealing even with millennials who are in their 40s. We got lied to about the Gulf War. We got lied to about the Great Recession. We got lied to by so many things by this government. There's a healthy skepticism when it comes to mainstream media outlets. So we hope to win the information war of the future. We have to figure out how to not just deride people such as Pac-Man, but how to understand them and better push our messaging through those sorts of outlets. Because at the end of the day, like the old folks will say, you got to put it where the goats can get it. We can either have this broad esoteric conversation at the top 10,000-foot view, or we can get down to where the people are and be able to explain to them why what he said was wrong.
Well, the first thing you do is you do not platform people like that, because you actually make that whole thing worse. Hold tight 1 second. Going to a break. We'll be back right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Don't forget to support the work that we do. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. If you want to join via Cash App, use the QR code from Stripe. Click the Cash App Pay button to contribute. The QR code is right here. If you're listening, go to blackstarnetwork.com. Send your check and money order to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 2037-0196. PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo, RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.
We begin tonight with the people who are really running the country right now.
Now, Trump is often wrong and misleading about a lot of things, but especially about history.
Donald Trump falling in line with President Elon Musk.
In the wake of the unsettling news that MSNBC has canceled Joy Ann Reid's primetime show, The Readout, Roland Martin and the Black Star Network would like to extend an invitation to all of the fans of Joy Ann Reid's MSNBC show to join us every night to watch Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming on the Black Star Network for news, discussion of the issues that matter to you, and the latest updates on the twice impeached, criminally convicted felon-in-chief Donald Trump and his unprecedented assault on democracy, as well as co-president Elon Musk's takeover of the federal government. The Black Star Network stands with Joy Ann Reid and all folks who understand the power of Black voices in media. We must come together and never forget that information is power. Be sure to watch Roland Martin Unfiltered weeknights, 6 p.m. Eastern at youtube.com/Roland S. Martin or download the Black Star Network app.
Carl Payne pretending to be Roland Martin. Holla!
You ain't got to wear black and gold every damn place, okay? Ooh, I'm an alpha, yay. All right, you're 58 years old. It's over.
And you are now watching
Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Uncut, unplugged, and undamn believable.
Man, I've had a number of people send me this video. It is from the senior pastor at Trinity United Church of Christ in Chicago, Reverend Otis Moss III, my alpha brother. And he talks about the puppet master. Say it again. Well, do we have that video? All right, y'all, let me know if we have that video. So he talks about the puppet masters, the people who are controlling Trump, the people who are organizing this whole thing, and who's controlling him, who's calling the shots, and see, you gotta understand this. What people know, what the billionaires know, is that Donald Trump, that twice impeached, criminally convicted con man, he's a grifter. He's transactional. Remember how he hated TikTok until David Yas, the billionaire, started sending him lots of money. Then all of a sudden, oh my goodness, I think TikTok is great. It is wonderful. And then he hated electric vehicles. And all of a sudden, well, Elon came along and I'm going to give you a campaign, $300 million. And so now he's like, oh my God, buy a Tesla. I bought one. It's wonderful. He literally turned the White House into an infomercial. That's who this con man grifter is. So Reverend Otis Moss III broke down the puppet and the puppet master. Do we have it ready, folks? All right. So, guys, let me know when it's ready. I found the video fascinating. I've literally had at least 6 or 8 different people send me this video for me to check out. So I wanted y'all to check it out. Watch this.
To my Trinity family, if you will just give me 5 minutes, there's some information that I've got to share with you about puppet masters that are controlling the puppet. Puppet masters that are controlling the puppet. Let me begin by sharing this information today. There's a person you have never heard of who may be one of the most influential thinkers in the right-wing and white nationalist space in this country. His name is Curtis Yarvin. Let me say it again, Curtis Yarvin. He founded the anti-egalitarian and the anti-democratic movement known as the Dark Enlightenment or neo-reactionary movement. This movement believes democracy is a failed experiment and must be replaced by a monarchy or a dictatorship. The way to reach this goal is through Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley venture capitalists who will use their money to sway public opinion and miseducate the masses through social media and collecting our data. One of Curtis Yarvin's disciples is a person by the name of Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel, I'm not sure the pronunciation, is a South African, or an Afrikaner, just like Elon Musk, who founded PayPal. Peter Thiel funded the political rise of J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance has publicly stated that Curtis Yarvin is his intellectual mentor. Now, Curtis Yarvin says in order to destroy democracy, they have a program called RAGE, R-A-G-E, RAGE. And this program means retire all government employee.
Rage, Project 25, Rage, and now DOGE is doing the work of Curtis Yarvin. Curtis Yarvin believes some races are fit for servitude. Blacks have a natural lower IQ, and civil rights was applied to a population of recent hunter-gatherers' ancestry and no great moral fiber. As a result, civil rights in America created absolute garbage. The architect of Trump's presidency, Steve Bannon, is an admirer of his work, and a collection of Silicon Valley billionaire bros adhere to his philosophy. How do we push back? Number one, we've got to be educated about what is happening. Number two, we have to be deliberate with our dollars. There's no reason we should be supporting any business that plays in our face. Support local, support Black businesses. Number three, support Black institutions that believe in liberation. Whether it is your church, HBCU, whether it is an activist organization, unions, independent press, fraternities, sororities, all of these organizations we have to support, and we have to raise our voice. And finally, you've got to be the most engaged voter, politically astute, not miseducated, but educated. They are coming after us. Rage, retiring all government employee, dismantling the Department of Education. We are in the midst of a hostile takeover in America. But let me give you one thing. All of this research I have been doing, I found out that their greatest fear is Black people when they're organized. From 1971 to today, we have the power, and we are connected to an all-powerful God. In the words of Sean Connery from The Untouchables, there ended the lesson, and that's my 5 minutes. Peace.
Powerful there. What do you make of that, Derek?
I think it's the message that needs to go viral, right? Again, when you think about the last segment we just had around messaging, we have to make sure that we put it in a context, right? We give the Republicans too much credit, Roland. There was no message that they did that made them win. There was no message in MAGA, Make America Great Again. Make America Great didn't change the price of eggs, didn't change the price of gasoline. It was all about Project 2025. It allowed for them to unleash the things that they've been harboring for a very long time, and that is the whitewash, not only the most painful era of our history, but even our contributions. We can't even talk about the contributions of Ida B. Wells, Fannie Lou Hamer, Dr. King, right? And so this was nothing about messaging, in my humble opinion. But something like that will not go viral. I guarantee it, Roland, if you put it on your platform and tell people to click there, it won't. You might get about 5,000 clicks. But if you say something about a beat dispute between Drake and Kendrick Lamar, you're gonna get 30 million hits. And so we got to make sure that we put these things in the context and say what's at stake. And it's more than just saying our democracy is at stake. We got to tell Black people your civil rights can be gone tomorrow, because Donald Trump just signed an executive order yesterday that said it's okay to segregate. And so don't wake up all surprised one day and you go back to college or you go back to work and say, Black people, you use this bathroom. White people, you use this bathroom. And oh yeah, when you go into that bathroom, Black people, you may not find toilet paper. You may not find air freshener. And so these are the kind of things that we got to make it so concrete and put it in a way that they can digest it. Because just to say our democracy is at stake, Roland, is too big for them to digest. So we got to make it and put it where they can really consume it.
See, Robert, I don't think people are really, truly grasping. We talked about it for 3 years. They're not understanding that Project 2025 was nearly 1,000 pages.
920.
This is not about waste, fraud, and abuse. This is literally about how do you completely realign this country? How do you destroy institutions that they believe are left-leaning or left? How do you completely remake the nation into the hardcore right-wing MAGA?
And look, Roland, to your point, I want people to understand that Donald Trump did not create Project 2025. Project 2025 created Donald Trump. At a point in time where he had lost the White House, where he was facing almost 100 indictments across the country. He could have gone to prison for almost 1,000 years if all his sentences were run consecutively. A point in time where he owed $80 million to E. Jean Carroll, $25 million for the Trump University fraud, $2.5 million for fraud in New York. He was nearly $1 billion in debt. And then a group of people came to him and said, for your soul in this Faustian bargain, if you ensure us that you will put our policies in place, we will ensure that you become the next president of the United States. And that was the people of the Heritage Foundation. That was the tech bros, the Elon Musk and the Peter Thiels and the Jeff Bezoses of the world. It was the richest people on planet Earth who control the economic system of the world, the Jamie Dimons and the people who are in Switzerland every year, the World Economic Forum, coming together to simply say, we need you to be our vessel. Look at what Vladimir Putin is doing to Trump right now, running him around like a little dog. He came to the meeting, he got on the phone call with Trump, I think something like 20 minutes late, just to demonstrate the level of power that he has over this individual. So when we talk about these things being bigger than just politics, bigger than the traditional left-right battles that we are having, we're dealing with a situation very similar to what we were at where we're 100 years ago, when we're talking about the complete realignment of social systems, not just across the socioeconomic divide, but across the ideological spectrum of the globe. Where Canada is talking about leaving the U.S. economic trade zone and joining the European Union to create a new economic power. Where rising nations across the world are joining the BRICS alliance, saying they will no longer depend on the U.S. dollar, and we're seeing global de-dollarization. What we are currently seeing is not just a plan to strip us of our traditional American rights and values, but to realign what America means as a symbol across the world, to the point that you had France saying they were going to send over a boat to repossess the Statue of Liberty because it no longer represents the shared values of the Enlightenment that we believed in. And I want Black folks to ask themselves, what happens if tomorrow segregation is legal again? Because that's not a far-fetched idea. Charlie Kirk has already said that we need to restore individual rights and that businesses should not be forced to accept anybody that they don't want. They use this in the transgender or the homosexual context, but it will also apply to the level of jurisprudence as it relates to desegregation and African Americans. They've already talked about the repeal of the Interstate Commerce Clause, which was used to force federal rights to local actors on their in-state actions. It is not out of the question that tomorrow you could wake up and an executive order has been signed saying that any business that wants to publicly discriminate against you is allowed to do so. And what is your plan as a community? Are you going to go to a job now that says that you have to use a separate bathroom? Are you going to go to businesses now that say you can't enter into the front door? Other than marching and protesting, what exactly would be your plan if you were economically cut off from white America? We, just as every other nation around the world, if we really view ourselves as being a nation, have to make a plan around this. And it starts with winning the war on information, winning the war on education, winning the war on organization. You're leading the charge on that, Roland. We have to get people to realize that they are in a fight right now while they are still sitting home thinking that everything will be okay. This is just a normal situation. France and the EU are meeting about what to do if they are attacked by America. We are not in a normal situation, and we need to understand the extent of the crisis we are currently in. As our Constitution phrase, as Gil Scott-Heron said, the Constitution, a noble piece of paper. But that paper is burning in the fires under this movement. And we have to understand that Trump isn't simply the problem. He is merely the vanguard bringing forward a new world order.
Well, I need our people to fully understand that this is a moment not only for Black unity, but this is truly a moment where we have to mobilize and organize, because I'm telling y'all, if you want to be so personally arrogant like an Adam Pac-Man Jones and say it's all about me and my paper, okay, go right ahead. But you got family members, you got friends, you got classmates, you got cousins, you got church members, you got neighbors, and trust me, the Black folks who don't have paper, what they gonna do? And I'm telling you, when you start talking about the healthcare cuts, we start talking about the food cuts, we start talking about the attacks on organizations, folks, this is not, look, they are admitting in court that Venezuelans who they ship to a decrepit El Salvador prison, they admitted in court some of them didn't have criminal records. But they're on television saying how they're these violent gang members. They will say and do anything, and I'm telling y'all, that is not the America you truly want to live in. Because if they are allowed to do this, trust me, these people have no bottom. And they will keep going down, down, down. I'll be right back.
Roland
Martin. Yep.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, they picked up 6 citizens, 6, and not only deported them and sent them over to Venezuela, to your point, but then they denied the federal court judge. The judge said to bring them back. And Trump and I forget the guy that's leading this whole czar guy.
Stephen Miller.
Yes. He said, I don't care what the judge said. Think about that for a second. 6 individuals, they were not gangbangers, they were not criminals, they had a tattoo, I love mom, and they took them, just picked them up and sent them overseas.
Yep. That's what's going on. And trust me, Robert, when you start having an administration just openly say, we don't give a damn what a judge thinks, oh, we got a problem.
It is the definition of a constitutional crisis. That when Polybius discussed the difference between the Roman Republic as existed at that time versus the government in Greece, which had recently been conquered by the expansion of the empire, he said the one thing that made him believe that government would never fall was the separation of powers. That you have a Senate full of the old men, the nobility, the aristocracy. You have a council who is elected by the people. You have an independent judiciary. They're able to balance the needs of each group. Now you see a situation in America where you have a singular executive, or what they call the unitary executive theory of government. And that individual has complete control over the House of Representatives. He has control over the Senate because apparently Chuck Schumer just caves whenever any pressure is applied. He has 6 justices on the U.S. Supreme Court, not to mention he named 300 on the lower courts he appointed the first time out, and the more that he will be able to push through this time. This is how democracies fall apart. This is how republics fall into tyranny. That when President Trump jokes about running for a 3rd term in 2028, he has not joked about a damn thing yet. What makes you think he's joking about that? The Constitution that we depend on is at a weaker state now than it has been since any time since the Civil War, and we have to start making contingency plans for what happens when that document falls.
Indeed, indeed. All right, folks, we'll be right back. Roland Martin Unfiltered, right here on the Black Star Network.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. The window to invest in Fanbase is closing. We've raised over $10.6 million of our $17 million goal. That means there's room for less than 6,370 people to invest in Fanbase for the average amount. The minimum to invest in Fanbase right now is $399. That makes you an owner in Fanbase today. Go to startengine.com/fanbase to invest. Why? because current social apps have taken advantage of users for far too long, with content suppression, shadow banning, harmful racist content, and no real tools for monetization and equity. Fanbase has over 1.4 million users and counting, allowing anyone to reach all their following and monetize their content from day one. Social media is the new TV, and whoever owns the apps that distribute that content have the opportunity to own potential billion-dollar companies. While big platforms with uncertain futures are failing to serve their users, Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now, invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the next generation of social media.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kim Coles.
Hey, I'm Donnie Simpson.
Yo, it's your man Dion Cole from Blackish, and you watch
Roland Martin, Unfiltered.
Folks, I am here in Austin, where there's some drama here at the state capitol. The special election to fill the term of deceased Congressman Sylvester Turner is an issue. So Texas Governor Greg Abbott has not announced when the special election is going to be held. The earliest there could be a new representative could occupy the position is mid to late May. Well, the latest possible date would be mid-December. So what's going on here? Of course, Abbott could just say, what the heck, I'm going to leave this position open, put it on the November ballot, and that means that the people of the 18th Congressional District in Houston will be left without a representative over the next 9 or so months. Then, of course, it could be in May. So there are folks that I was at the Capitol. I was talking to some state reps, and they were talking about how, that the pressure needs to be put on the governor to move. But what you have is, you got a very slim lead for Republicans in the House, and so by not filling a vacancy on the Democratic side, that helps House Republicans. Derek, this is one of those things that, it's unfortunate when the decisions are left up to the governor. Ron DeSantis did the exact same thing in Florida by not moving, dragging his feet on having a special election, thus delaying Democrats being able to take that seat.
Not only they're playing politics, and the governor there understands what he's doing. He's being intentional, Roland. He wanted to make sure that slim margin is now one seat greater towards the Republicans, right? Because now you have one less Democrat, and you have a population of 700,000 Texans without representation in Washington, D.C. But also look at what's coming on the horizon, Roland, right? They're going to have to do a debt ceiling. They got to take that on. They got other things that's coming down the pipe. And so the more that the Speaker of the House right now can say, hey, I got a little bit more favorability now because the gap opened up by one seat. I can see Governor Abbott saying, well, let's just put it on November ballot, to your point, and wait until that general election to be done the latter part of this year, because they realize what's on the horizon, and every vote counts.
Robert?
After the president's joint address to Congress, I was coming back from the Cannon Tunnel towards the Longworth building. I saw Congressman Turner in the kind of what they call the superhighway there. And I got an opportunity to speak with him briefly. He was sitting down in a chair. Capitol Police were kind of tending to him. And I asked him how he was doing. He's like, I'm doing all right, brother. I'm doing all right. And the next morning, they announced that he had passed. I think it's crucial for us as a group to understand that it is okay at points in time to pass the baton. It is okay to bring up that next generation. It is okay to train those to go behind you, who can uplift your vision, who can uplift your values, your beliefs, and maybe they have stronger legs to carry, but you can be that guiding force. If you look around leadership on the Democratic side of the aisle, on all levels, whether it's the party apparatus, the House leadership, the Senate leadership, you're dealing with people who are older. We've already had 2 members of the Democratic Caucus in the House pass away this year, and that's not even counting in Sheila Jackson Lee last year. We have to start passing these batons voluntarily so that we're able to ensure that we are controlling the people who are appointed. We should not put these decisions in the hands of someone like Greg Abbott. We cannot put these things in the hands of someone like a Ron DeSantis. The battles that we have going forward are too important. And while I understand the compilation to not give up, to not sit down, to not feel that you're not in the fight, sometimes it's more important to ensure that we are building those generations going forward. Because right now, as we're seeing more and more of that generation of leadership, that leadership that brought us out of the desert and into prosperity, and we have been talking about the creation of this Joshua generation to take the fight to the next level since I was in college. But yet and still, we're not seeing that take place. These things will not go on their own. And as we're seeing, as we saw Ruth Bader Ginsburg, when you wait too long, you put our community in a tougher position. So we need to start talking and putting together the plans on what the agenda will be going forward and who can best support the agenda. We have to have our eyes on the prize of what we're trying to achieve legislatively. It's not about the individual, it's about the nation, it's about the community and what we can do together. And we need to have those conversations quick, fast, and in a hurry, because the longer that we wait, the more power that these extreme MAGA forces who have been putting together these multi-generational plans for multiple generations, they're now enacting those plans, and we don't have the next generation trained up and ready to go. And that's why they end up listening to a Setsy Red, a Waka Flocka Flame, a Pac-Man, a Le'Veon Bell, instead of our leadership, because the leadership is now 2 and 3 and 4 generations away from the actual energy of the movement. We have to put the movement first, not the people.
Absolutely. So we're just watching what happens here in Texas. Christian Menefee, he is the county attorney. He announced he's running today. Former city councilwoman Amanda Edwards announced she's running. There are about 6 or 7 others. Potentially, you may have 10 to 15 people who seek this coveted position in Houston, this historic position, because the 18th Congressional District, that is the seat formerly held by Congresswoman Barbara Jordan, as well as Congressman Mickey Leland. All right, folks, we'll be right back. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. When we come back, before we come back, be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing on average $50 each, $4.19 a month, 13 cents a day. If you want to use Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. You see it right here. Click the Cash App pay button to contribute. You can also go to blackstarnetwork.com if you're listening. You can also send your check and money order, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 20037-0196. PayPal's R. Martin Unfiltered, Venmo RM Unfiltered, Zelle Roland@RolandSMartin.com, Roland@RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. We'll be right back.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr. We look at the history of emancipation around the world, including right here in the United States, the so-called end of slavery. Trust me, it's a history lesson that bears no resemblance to what you learned in school. Professor Chris Manjapra, author, scholar, amazing teacher, joins us to talk about his latest book, Black Ghost of Empire, The Death of Slavery and the Failure of Emancipation. He explains why the end of slavery was no end at all, but instead a collection of laws and policies designed to preserve the status quo of racial oppression.
The real problem is that the problems that slavery invented have continued over time. And what reparations are really about is saying, how do we really transform society, right? And stop racial violence, which is so endemic.
What we need to do about it on the next installment of The Black Table, right here on the Black Star Network.
Hey, this is Motown recording artist Kim. You are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered. That boy, he always unfiltered though. I ain't never known him to be filtered. Is there another way to experience Roland Martin than to be unfiltered? Of course he's unfiltered. Would you expect anything less? Watch what happens next.
Penny Smothers has been missing from Washington, D.C. since March 8th. The 54-year-old is 5 feet 8 inches tall, weighs 165 pounds, with brown hair, brown eyes, and shoulder-lead gray hair. Anyone with information about Penny Smothers should call the Metropolitan Police Department. 202-727-9099, 202-727-9099. Y'all, it was a huge night last night in Dayton, Ohio, for Alabama State University, the HBCU, out of Montgomery. They played St. Francis in the play-in game for March Madness. This play here, throwing the ball full court, and then be able to score that layup under the basket with 0.7 seconds left. Boy, talk about a huge play. That play led, of course, Alabama State to a 70-68 victory over St. Francis. The Hornets will next face tournament's #1 seed, Auburn University, on Thursday in Lexington, Kentucky. Now, when the game was over, suffice to say, the head coach of Alabama State was extremely excited about what happened. This is the locker room talk of Alabama State coach Tony Matlock.
We're going to have to get on that road tonight, but listen, this is what it is, man. We told y'all about our games, all of them. But I told them, we spend more time on situational stuff. Touchdown, great pass. Way to go get it. And then all they want, I want this ball. I want this ball, and I got to score this ball. Man, that's what you got to do, man. That is a winning play. That is a winning pass. That's everything, man. Everything that we talk about. Again, we ain't through. Let's keep playing. So proud. First tournament win in Alabama State history. Hey, got to 20 wins. How many years? 16 years. I'm telling you, let's just keep doing it. Let's let's fly around and have fun. I want to have fun. That's all we're gonna do, man. But we know we gotta play better. We know it. I'm just so proud of you guys, man. We're going to get out of here. We got media stuff we got to do. We're going to get to that hotel. We're going to shower. We're going to get on that road. We're going to Lexington.
You know, Derek, if that was one sport where HBCUs could still compete effectively against PWIs, it really would be basketball. First of all, your squad is typically 12, 15 players. Your rotation is typically 8, max 10. So you could have some top players in the country decide to attend HBCUs, and they could make a hell of a run at March Madness. And again, right mix of players, they could literally win the national championship.
You know, Roland, when you give us an opportunity to compete, and we know what the result's going to be because we understand that we work twice as hard. We understand that we may not have as much resources as a PWI, but in the end, when you look at one's heart and energy, the coach said it best, right? This is really based upon how we look at our collective and independent energy. And when we bring it all together, that synergy is unstoppable. But I would say this though, Roland, regardless if it's on a basketball court or a football field or a golf course or a tennis court, there's a reason why they're systematically and intentionally trying to remove funds towards HBCUs or those anti-Black schools, right? Because because they realize that if you take the resources away, they can't take our heart. And that's the reason why they're going after HBCUs, they're going after our sports. We have a bill right now in Georgia, Senate Bill 120, Roland, that they talk about you cannot even have Michael Jordan picture in the locker room. Because if you have Michael Jordan picture in a locker room, they're going to remove your funds. This is where we are. And so that's where they're trying to create this unlevel playing field by removing funding. And they think that's going to take our heart and our energy away. But they're going to be sadly mistaken, because that historic victory clearly demonstrates that you don't have to give us the same amount of funds that you give to Alabama or Auburn. We will still fight and we will still win, because we just twice as better.
Robert, I remember when Howard University signed one of the top ranked players in the country, a 7-footer, but then COVID hit and it was all sort of, he ended up leaving. A lot of people were excited about that, heralding that as a new moment. And I must say, and then of course, in football, when Travis Hunter, the number one cornerback in the country, one of the top players, signed with Jackson State, later transferred to Colorado. When Deion Sanders left to go to Colorado, eventually winning the Heisman Trophy at Colorado. But I'm telling you right now, I mean, listen, if you got 3 or 4 of the top basketball players in the country decide to go play for a particular HBCU, listen, you don't need 8 stars to win. You got 2 or 3 stars, you could win it all.
And look, Roland, you're absolutely correct. Now, I would like to note that all these attacks on diversity, equity, and inclusion, don't want black folks at Harvard, you don't want black folks in North Carolina, you don't want black folks in the engineering program. I ain't see nobody trying to stop black folks from playing basketball at these big schools.
Of course not.
Yeah, I ain't seen one effort. I ain't seen Trump or J.D. Vance or Elon saying we can't have all these black folks playing football at these schools, bringing in these millions of dollars. There's a reason for that. They understand the power of the black body. I remind people of this often, that archaeologists tell us that the first black folks appeared on this planet between 250 and 300,000 years ago on the African continent. It wasn't until 75,000 years ago that we even left the African continent as a species. But the genetic markers, according to the journal Science, and a study from 2017, says that the genes that signify whiteness, that means white skin, blonde hair, blue eyes, able to digest lactose, did not appear in Northern Europe until 7,700 years ago, so more recently than the last ice age. The reason this is significant is they will tell you that anything before that period of time is prehistory. Nothing before the time when they showed up matters at all. So when you're talking about competing against people of African DNA, they understand that they are at a genetic disadvantage. You're dealing with a population that has been evolving for 300,000 years, essentially into the perfected version of humanity. Meanwhile, any individuals who are not whose DNA left the African continent have between 1 and 10% Neanderthal DNA. These are just facts that exist out there. That's the reason that they like you playing football. That's the reason they like you playing basketball. You're essentially a super soldier from Marvel Comics when you're out there with them. So they're not going to try to stop those things. But this is why it's important for us, as you said, to control our own economy, to control our own athletics. Because when the best players go to our schools, the dollars follow those players. When Jared Rice was at Mississippi Valley State, the eyeballs, the dollars followed him there. When we invest in ourselves, we can build our own institutions, and we won't have to depend on Bear Bryant to integrate us into football or into a Bobby Knight to bring us into basketball. We'll be able to control that messaging, and when we move to that next level, we'll have a community that understands that they need to reinvest from where they came from. Instead of seeing our athletes with $100 million contracts sitting courtside at a Kentucky game, we can see them right down here at Clark Atlanta, Morehouse, Morris Brown, it's another HBCU, putting that money back into our institutions and our schools.
Well, would love to see that day come. Gentlemen, I appreciate you joining me on today's show. Thank you so very much. Derek and Robert, thanks a lot. Folks, that's it. I got to head downstairs. Texas Legislative Black Caucus is honoring me with an Outstanding Texan Award, so I got to go pick that up. So glad to be here. But also, always glad to have y'all here. First of all, y'all on YouTube, man, hit that like button, y'all. We should be blowing that out of the waters every single night. Do me a favor, if y'all want to support the work that we do, your resources are invaluable. To join our Bring the Funk fan club, goals get 20,000 of our fans contributing on average $50 each a year. $4.19 a month, 13 cents a day. You can't give back and give less. We totally understand. But appreciate every single dollar. But if you can contribute more, that'd be great as well. We purposely do not charge a subscription fee because we want the content widely available to everybody. If you want to give me a Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. You see it right here. Click the Cash App pay button to contribute. You can also use Stripe for credit card payment. Senior checking money order, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. PayPal's R Martin Unfiltered, Venmo RM Unfiltered, Zelle Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Of course, you can download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Be sure to get a copy of my book, White Fear: How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds, available bookstores nationwide. Get the audio version that I read on Audible. If you also want to get our Roland Martin Unfiltered Black Stud Network swag, go to right here, go to RolandMartin.creator-spring.com, RolandMartin.creator-spring.com, and of course the QR code's there as well. And of course you should download the app Fanbase, and you should also if you want to invest, go to startengine.com/fanbase. Folks, that's it. I'll see you tomorrow right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered in the Black Star Network. How? Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home. You dig?